People are fighting back uh, joyfully, prayerfully. And I want to bring on our next guest. Her name is Noelle Damico, and she has been doing some incredible work with some of the organizers in Florida. She is the director of social justice at the Workers Circle, and she also teaches at the NYU Wagner Graduate School of Public Service. And she has been organizing weekly vigils outside of Alligator Alcatraz Detention Center in the Everglades, together with Florida leaders of faith and conscience for more than 4 months. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Noelle Damico.
It's so good to be with you, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
And Noelle, thank you for the. I'm just blown away by the work that you have been doing. It was incredible that to see that many of us got the same idea and we're doing similar work, and then we just came together. We've all been just trying to come together so that we can support this important frontline work. But I want to just, take a step back to let you tell people a little bit about the work you've been doing and tell the story.
Absolutely. So your listeners may be familiar with the cruelly named Alligator Alcatraz Detention Center that was built in 8 days on the Florida Everglades protected land. This happened at the end of June, beginning of July. And as this build was going on, Worker Circle, which is part of a range of national coalitions, including the Not Above the Law Coalition, have been talking about how can we get a public statement, a profound moral no going right where these detention centers are. And when we saw Alligator Alcatraz under construction, I'd been working with Florida leaders of faith and conscience for several decades on human rights issues. So I just picked up the phone and I started calling the clergy I knew. I reached out to people that I knew shared our values and knew that these faith leaders would become part of a core of resistance. So we started holding vigils outside of Alligator Alcatraz. And what's a little different about Alligator Alcatraz than some of the other detention centers is that, unlike other detention centers, there is not a register where the names of people being detained are placed. According to federal law and federal detention center policy, there is a database into which people being held for immigration issues go so that their lawyers and their family members can find them. Not so with Alligator Alcatraz. It's essentially a domestic U.S. black site. When you go in there, you're also then faced with well-documented, well-reported human rights abuses, including things like 30 people inside a cage with one toilet, including inability to shower regularly,
Maggots in the food, I've heard.
yes, food that's gone bad and maggots, but also lack of medical care when needed. One of the family members we know whose loved one was detained was close to diabetic shock, and that's how they got out of Alligator Alcatraz and over, joy of joy, to Chrome Detention Center in Miami. But what's happening right now inside that detention center and inside so many of these detention centers is not only shameful and immoral, we're saying it's un-American. This is not the kind of operation that we should be holding up in a nation that is committed to democracy, committed to free speech, committed to welcoming immigrants. Now, we know we've got a checkered past here in the United States on that. We obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. But what's happening by and large with these ICE operations is that people are being swept off the streets from their workplaces, from their houses of worship, from schools, from hospitals. These are people that are being swept up, even people with work authorization, people who had student visas who were summarily canceled, or work visas, but it didn't matter. They're picked up, they're detained. They're then often pressured to self-deport, or if not deported, either to the home country from which they originally came, or sometimes to a third country where they have no connection whatsoever.
So I want to just highlight that this is, as you said, it is un-American and it is happening everywhere. So it's not just happening in Florida.
That's
How
right.
pervasive is this?
Well, it's extremely pervasive. For example, you just showed the video from Miami, Indiana with Speedway Slammer, which the federal government referred to as the next alligator Alcatraz. So they took this state-run facility, and by the way, states aren't supposed to be detaining people for immigration. That's the federal government's job. So there's a whole suit around that at Alligator Alcatraz. But meanwhile, these other detention centers that are copycats, that the Alligator Alcatraz camp was a blueprint for, are being created and people are being put inside. But it's not just this, it's all across the country. People are being taken when they show up at ICE court to renew and say, hey, here I am. It's not like the federal government didn't know where most of these people are. They're targeting the people who are following the process that the federal government gave to them to follow, who have been living and working and contributing to our communities. So where are these detention centers? They are all across the country. And there's a wonderful organization called Detention Watch Network, and they have mapped where these federal detention centers are, and you can go out to Detention Watch Network's website and take a look at some of them. These ICE courts are everywhere as well, and these again are the courts where people come on a regular basis, usually once a year, to check in with the federal government, to show that they have work authorization, and that's where the Trump administration is grabbing them and then putting them in detention.
And so that kind of blows up the narrative that it's about the law and they should follow the law, because they're trying to follow the law. They're trying to do the right thing.
That's
And
exactly
then
right.
they're punishing them for that. So I
That's
think
right.
we can abandon that.
That's
I think it's
abandonment.
also worth noting that this is a huge cash grab for companies like CoreCivic and Geo Group, the private prison industrial complex, who are big Trump administration donors. And they're just trying to, flip these facilities really quickly. They're
Absolutely.
trying to franchise them because it's a giant cash grab. So these are happening everywhere. It's happening in New Jersey, Michigan,
They're
Texas,
happening in
Oklahoma,
Louisiana.
California.
Yeah.
And so luckily, folks like you are mounting a resistance everywhere. There was just a big mobilization, I think, that
Yes.
happened.
November 1st
Called,
and 2nd.
oh,
Yes.
yeah,
The
called
weekend
Invisible in America. Was that
disappeared in America,
Disappeared in America?
actually, because these are people that are being disappeared from work, disappeared from our communities, disappeared from our neighborhoods. This is why we're using the word disappeared also, because in Alligator Alcatraz, you actually can't track people. Miami Herald has put out a very important report saying, hey, look, there are 800 people that were in Alligator Alcatraz and they've just gone off the grid. But you're right, resistance is happening everywhere. And on the weekend of action that was called Disappeared in America, we mounted over 150 events nationwide. Some of these were protests outside of Home Depot. Some of these were Day of the Dead memorials, and some of them were vigils outside of detention centers, ICE courts, and other sensitive locations. And what we're in the process of doing right now, because it was such a successful day that mobilized so many thousands of people, is saying, okay, you did it once. How do you do it over time? How do you make this regular? And so what I want your listeners to know is we have training resources. If you're hearing about this and you're saying, what can I do in my own community? You can absolutely join in. We are happy to connect you with others. And it may be that right in your community, something is already afoot. That's the other thing. It's not like we know every vigil that's going on across the country. We'd never presume to do that. These are really, even those that are connected with us, very locally led and locally driven. And that's exactly as they should be, because what these vigils do, first of all, is tell the people who are being detained, you are not alone. We are standing with you and we are prepared to fight this together. The second thing that they do is introduce people in the community to one another. Faith leaders meet union leaders, college students meet veterans, people who have never protested in their life, friends. They will come to a vigil because that's a mode of kind of contemplation and protest at the same time that appeals to a very broad range of people. So what we're about right now is taking that wonderful weekend of action, which put thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the streets, and taking that and turning that into something regular by supporting those organizations with some of the best practices. We've been out there in front of Alligator Alcatraz since August the 3rd, every single week. I just told a newspaper reporter the other day, I said, we're coming up now on week 19 of 52 weeks of
Wow.
prayer and
Well,
protest.
let's go back a tick and just very briefly tell people what is a freedom vigil and why is this a good tactic?
Yeah. Well, the Freedom Vigil is essentially a vigil where you go and you're present and you invite prayer and testimony. You may sing some songs, you may read some poems. If you are connected to family members who have loved ones inside, you make a space for them to share their experience if they want. We have to take, first of all, care because many of these families are mixed status families. Many of them are afraid that their loved ones inside will be retaliated against. So, again, never pressure any family members to share, but if they are willing, absolutely make a place for them. So, vigils are simply a space to come together with intentionality. It's a place that you can invite the press to demonstrate that we are not standing idly by. We are in opposition to these Trump administration operations that are harming our neighbors, our family members, and our friends. And so they don't have to, it doesn't have to be a complicated affair. Some people have even had silent vigils, right? Stood out there with some candles. So they're easy to put together. And then why do a vigil? Because, first of all, again, it communicates to the people who are being detained, to their loved ones, and to immigrant communities and others who are under threat right now. It tells them, you may not be able to be out here with us, but we know this is going on. It's wrong, and we're not going to stop talking about it and showing up to say we are against this. And so that piece of it, I cannot tell you how important it is. I get WhatsApp messages, signal messages, phone calls day and night from communities that are saying, thank you for being out there. And this is what you can do in your own community, because honestly, this is not a local issue. It's a national issue. And indeed, it's also an international issue because some of the harm that's being done actually rises to the level of abrogation of international law in some of these facilities. So how do you get started and start going from having a gathering once to having a gathering several times? You want to build a group of people and assess, okay, can we hold this once a week? Or maybe we hold it once every 2 weeks. Or maybe like the folks out at Speedway Slammer, we're going to do it once a month. You figure out what's going to be that interval that you can currently sustain. You don't want to start something, do it for 2 weeks, and then it dissipates, right? So you want to bring enough people in so that you can share leadership, so that it's a big tent, so that it's not just everybody from one congregation, right? It's from a panoply of
And it's
congregations.
not just one faith either. It's all sorts of
It's
faith
all
leaders. There
sorts of
are
faith.
indigenous leaders. There are
Exactly.
veterans. There's all walks of life showing up in
That's right.
solidarity. And I think
That's
what's
right.
important about it is that it is demonstrating they like to claim that they have somehow the moral high ground and they like to flaunt their religion and their Christianity when this is in direct opposition
It's in
to
direct
the
opposition.
to their faith. And I think faith leaders showing up, showing moral courage, being moral witnesses and saying we're here in solidarity and this is what we are. This is who we are is a very, very important demonstration. And I think your point that it needs to be sustained, not just a one-off. This is something we need to keep doing over and over and over again. And before we leave, where can people go to find these resources and to follow your work?
Absolutely. Just go to freedomvigils with an S freedomvigils.org, and you'll be redirected to a page that's hanging off the Worker Circle page. At some point when we have a spare moment, haha, we're going to spin it off into a microsite. But if you go to freedomvigils.org, you'll be able to see some of what's gone on at Alligator Alcatraz. You'll see the press there. You'll see some of the groups involved, some of the concerns. You'll be able to hook up with other vigils that have chosen to list with freedomvigils.org. That list is going to be expanding as we get more and more people connecting with one another. The point here is to grow this and to share our experiences with one another and to remain united as we oppose these horrendous operations that are doing such terrible harm.
Well, thank you so much for all your work, Noelle. It has been such a pleasure to know you and to get to see your work and to connect with this sacred community. Honestly, this is the medicine that I need when confronted with all these horrors, getting together in real life and online with other people to show that we will not be moved. This to me it represents the best of who we are. And I'm just so grateful for you to join us and for this work you're doing. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks again. And the last thing I want to say is it's always the work of many hands. So I want to give a big shout out to the hundreds upon hundreds of people and organizations that are making these ongoing vigils possible. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's listening. You cared enough to tune in. Step up. We want you in this work. We'll make place for you in this work. Your creativity, your ingenuity, your imagination, your courage, your intelligence, it's all needed now. This is our time. Please, please think about starting a vigil. Thank you.
Thank you.